So, effective financial management. This is for anyone who's doing the Unit 3 exam on the 6th of June. If you're doing the 2009 Edexcel GCSE specification, your exam will be on Wednesday, the 6th of June. And if it is, this is the video for you for the topic 3.3, the financial management section of that exam. The exam's an hour and a half, and you'll be doing 3 sections, A, B, and C, and there'll be a mixture of multiple choice, short answer and extended answers questions. The key to be able to be successful in this video is to be able to link together 3-mark paragraphs. And so whenever you're thinking about your revision, if you can think of an advantage or a disadvantage to something, then you need to think, well, why is it a disadvantage? What does it lead to? PDD. You've got to try and think, what's my point and how can I develop that as a point? And we'll look at that a little bit in the video. So I'm not going to look at cash flow or break even in this video because they've already been looked at in 2 other videos which are on the YouTube channel. So if you want to do cash flow and you want to do break even, then please have a look at those videos. They are hopefully will be really, really useful. It's important that you are able to do this topic, the 3.3 topic, because if you can't do the 3.3 stuff, you can really lose some big marks. It's not like customer service where even if maybe the revision wasn't as strong, you might be able to make up an answer just from your knowledge from outside of your business studies lessons. Finance stuff really requires the time and the thought and able to get it right. So if you've been in any of my lessons in the last 2 years, this shouldn't be unfamiliar to you. Part of the Unit 3.3 and more greatly the exam generally is to understand profit and loss. Essentially, all businesses, the ones that will probably come up in the exam, will be profit or businesses that are trying to make a profit. Therefore, we need to work out, well, how can a business make a profit? And you need to consider this equation in its entirety. In order to increase revenue, we can either manipulate price. Now, it could be that we put price up, and then if quantity stayed the same, or even if quantity went down a little bit, as long as P times Q increased, then our revenue would go up. We could put price down a little bit, and as long as the quantity went up significantly, then we could potentially increase our revenue. Alternatively, we could change the quantity. Now, quantity is much more difficult to change than the price. Quantity is how many you sell. Now, you don't have direct control over that in the same way as you do with price. With quantity, you have to influence it. So you can influence the number sold by having happier staff, better customer service, better motivated staff. You could improve the quantity sold by maybe some advertising, some clever advertising campaigns. You could improve the quantity sold by maybe selling in more shops. So we can't directly control the number of items or products or services that are purchased. We only have the ability to influence the quantity sold. But either way, in order to increase revenue, we have to change price or we have to change quantity. Now, total costs. They are made up of your fixed costs and variable costs. So if we can see an increase in revenue, then if costs stay the same, then our profit will go up. But other than trying to affect revenue, maybe we can try and drive down costs. Again, this is something that businesses are quite likely to do because they have direct control over costs. So for most businesses' costs, it could be reducing wages is an immediate fix. Staff costs are a big part of any business. Therefore, if you can reduce staff wages, you could immediately reduce costs, which if revenue stays the same, profit will go up. But what they want you to understand in the exam is that by affecting one of these, it will have an impact on the others within the equation. So for example, if we try and get our revenue to go up and our cost to go down, then that will mean our profit goes up in a big way. And that's what businesses are really, really striving for. However, if we look at the box underneath, paying workers more will increase the costs of the business. Workers may improve customer service. This may then increase the quantity sold or allow the business to charge more. This would increase revenue. The success of paying workers depends upon whether the business can increase revenue enough to cover the wage increase. This is the kind of paragraph that you could really get into the end of a longer answer question in order to really develop a well-rounded answer. And it's got the "it depends upon" factor, which is key to trying to score top marks in the evaluation. So what we're saying here is if you pay your workers more, then there will obviously be an increase in cost. But by paying the workers more, you may get more out of the workers. The workers may produce more for you, maybe better staff, more motivated. And as long as that increases revenue more than the costs, then for the business, they will still see an increase in profit. And it's that interconnectedness that the examiner is looking for in the Unit 3 exam. How changing, how maybe wanting to put the price up might force you to improve the quality of the product. How if you want to sell more of a product, increase the quantity, then you may have to increase the quality, which might well increase the costs, which means you might also have to put the price up. And so how all of these things fit together, that's what they're really looking for in this Unit 3 exam. I've also given you another one here just to have a look at. And so what I've tried to do here is connect it to market research. So market research allows you to find out what customers want. This could lead to an increase in the number of units sold. This might lead to an increase in revenue. This will increase fixed costs. As long as these costs are not greater than the increase in revenue, then profit should increase. Every business decision will either reduce costs, increase revenue, or reduce revenue. They're all designed to manipulate this equation. Therefore, no matter what question you are asked in the exam, you can use this equation to help generate those greater developments. And that's what this is trying to show you, that even a question on market research, and this isn't how I would have taught any of my students to answer the market research question, but this shows how a question which might be, explain one advantage of market research could, in effect, you give them an advantage of market research, but then you start to link it to costs, revenue and profit. And pretty much everything which comes up on the exam could be linked in this way. And I'm not saying it's the best way to do things, but be aware of it. If you're struggling in the exam, can you link it back to how it will affect costs and therefore how it will affect revenue or profit? And that might be able to give you those extra developments that you need to develop a more reasonable answer. But the best time to use this, unless you're asked directly about it, is to start to add it in towards the end of an answer as you're trying to develop it to explain how the decisions and the choices that you've made throughout a longer answer question could affect the business overall. So now we're just having a quick look at investment and how a businesses can grow, financial growth. Two key things to look at here. So the first one is internal. If an organisation is trying to finance growth, where could that money potentially come from? It could come from retained profits. So any money that the business has got left over at the end of the year could be put back into that business to make it bigger. Or it could come from selling assets. So things that the business already owns, maybe land, maybe machinery. And by selling those assets, it could fund that growth of the organisation. Internal funds or internal sources of finance are absolutely fantastic in many respects because there are no interest to pay. So unlike loans or external sources where you have to pay people the money back plus interest, with retained profit there's no money to pay back, no interest payments to pay back. And if you sell assets, it was yours in the first place. So there may be very, very little in terms of cost to using that form of finance. Equally, if you're using your own money or your own assets, then you don't lose any ownership. Remember, Unit 3 is about larger organisations, PLCs, and organisations where shares or the sales of shares is very common within those organisations. And if you sell shares within your business, then that results in you starting to lose some of the ownership of that business. However, trying to use internal sources of finance may not give you enough money for what is required, particularly if we're talking about high tech or big businesses which require huge amounts of money in order to maybe make the growth that they want. Then that may not be possible with internal sources of finance. And it'll inevitably be slower, whether it's an asset sale or whether it's waiting for retained profits to come in. If you are trying to use your own sources of finance, unlike getting money from an external source, it won't be as quick. External sources of finance. So we're thinking about selling shares within an organisation. I think it was 2015, the Beats question was about using share capital, but it could be other forms of debt such as loans or overdrafts. External sources of finance are fantastic because they will bring in high levels of finance. As long as you've got a great idea and a fantastic plan, then there should be someone out there who is going to lend you money and would be prepared to lend you significant sums of money, which means that it's possible to make expansions much, much quicker. If you've got share capital, so if you've sold shares, then this is potentially cheaper than a loan because you will not be having to pay back the share capital. People have bought a share in your business, but it does mean that the profits will be diluted in the future. It also means that share capital, another advantage of that is that it is cheaper than a loan because there are no interest payments. However, if you've got a loan or an overdraft, then there will inevitably be interest payments, and this will increase costs significantly for borrowing that money. And if you are then selling shares, then there may be some loss. You may lose some of your ownership. And so the moment that you've sold shares, you don't control all of the decisions within the business, and the new owners or new part owners may wish to take the business in a different direction. So that's all that is on this short video. I've got a couple of questions which are going to come up in a minute, but please make sure you have a look at the break-even or cash flow videos as well. But here's just a couple of questions about financing growth. So this first one, discuss the benefits to Mulberry of using an internal source of finance. So what I'd ask you to do, it's a 6 marker, discuss being the keyword. So it's a 6 marker. So if you pause the video, have a little go, or at least have a think about what you would want to put, and then the mark scheme will come up in a minute. Okay. So this was the mark scheme for that question, and they were looking for benefits. Now, discuss, just flip back 1 second, discuss the benefits. It's a 6 marker, so it is looking for you to consider 2 benefits, then provide some balance and a little bit of a conclusion. So in this case, it was things such as lower risk, or no new shares to be issued. So it was the advantages of that internal sources of finance. And then some of the balances would be, as we've already discussed, that internal sources of finance might not provide you with enough money to allow rapid expansion. So that's the end of this short video now. I hope that this has been useful. Make sure you use it in conjunction with the break even and the cash flow video, and best of luck on Wednesday the